kind of where we're at. And so I hope you guys can hear me. If you guys can hear me, please let me know. I'm reporting from a hotel room, and so I'm trying to kind of give you guys an update on kind of where we're at, what it's looking like, and what the next step forward is. And so I'm trying to get my information out to the groups. Give me 1 second, please, and please bear with me. I'm not on my computer, so that's kind of where I'm at. And so give me 1 second. I'm not on my computer. So that's kind of where I'm at. Okay. Give me 1 second. Okay, so I think I'm live now. And so if you guys can see me, please let me know. Give me a thumbs up. And so we're going to start talking about kind of what happened today, things that we should be prepared for, what the process is going to look like going forward, and also, turn this situation that we're in into action. And so I want to start off by saying, we had, some great folks that showed up today at the Capitol building to kind of help be a face for Oregon gun owners. And so for the people that did come, I'm really thankful for their support and for them to be a part of this process. And, so this was, a long time coming. This is something that I knew, unfortunately, probably was going to happen. I was hoping that it wasn't going to happen, but, I have to understand Oregon politics, and I can't be in denial, right? And so that's where I wanted to kind of make sure you guys are what the process looks going forward. And we had some, and let's kind of recap this session, right? The session, it was a long session. So typically in a long session, they're dealing with budgets, they're dealing with all these different moving parts, and it's pretty complex. And there's still a lot to learn. That's what I'm doing, is learning through this process and kind of documenting it, and so you guys can kind of be a part of it, and hopefully getting you guys involved. And so that's kind of the goal there. And so, it's been a very kind of tumultuous session for me and others. And a lot of it is because the other side is, they have a super majority, they have all the cards. And so we are trying to do the best that we can to play the cards that we have and either slow up or stop things, and basically maneuver within the bounds of what we have to work with, right? And so in that regard, we had some tremendous successes. And so, obviously this video is going to be, there's going to be some stuff that I'm going to talk about that's going to be hard, and I think it's hard because it's kind of an emotional conversation for many of us. And so, that being said, it's important to know that, this is just part of this process, and I'm hoping that we can, yeah, and we can grow from there, right? And we can get better involved, and we can look at, and one thing I talked about with the people there, is what did we do well, and what could we do better next time? Because everything I work on, I work off of, results. I'm a results driven individual. Like, what did I do well? What didn't work so well? How can I improve? How can I better my position, my fighting position, right? And in this situation, I feel that there was a lot of growth in myself and others around me and the people that were part of this process. And so for that, it really gives me hope for the future. And so obviously, this didn't go the way we expected, but we knew going into today, after what we got the day before with 3076, we knew that they were going to pass this bill. I mean, literally, the only way we could have stopped it is if the senators would have walked out. And we'll talk about that conversation that I had. It was kind of very frustrating conversation for me, because I'm getting information because of just the relationships that I built inside of the building over the past couple of years, being up there and being an advocate for myself and other gun owners in the state of Oregon. And so it was definitely a situation where I was hoping that I could use that to my advantage. I could capitalize and bring everybody along with me for the ride. Right, that was the goal. And for in that regard, we did some amazing things. We stopped House Bill, or helped stop House Bill 3076. There were some other bills that died. We have to look at the session as a whole. There was probably 15 anti-guns, 12 to 15 anti-gun bills, and we got stuck with Senate Bill 243. And so, for me, like for what I'm doing in my chair, and being here in front of you on the video, is that's a tremendous success for us as Oregon gun owners, right? And so I'm hoping that we can use this experience to kind of grow, get better, obviously form a new organization, be one that's more forward facing, one that's in the building doing the work on the behalf of the members. And so that's kind of the goal, and where I'm going, and where other people are involved, and that's kind of where we're going to go. Is we're going to change the face of Oregon gun rights, and we're going to give you guys a voice. We're going to put you guys in the driver's seat, and that's what we're going to do, and we're going to work together. And so that's the one thing that I want to impress upon everybody is it's easy to get defeated. It's easy to feel that we didn't get the results that we wanted, but at the end of the day, we saved our FFLs. It was the work that we did as a group, right, that we're able to push back and literally stop signature legislation from the other side. Okay, this was, if we had a perfect picture for the other side, House Bill 3076 would have been that. And the fact that we were able to save that and stop that was tremendous. And so for that, like, we should all be celebrating. And so going forward, so Senate Bill 243 did get the votes, and it was passed, unfortunately, today. So that means it's going to go on to the governor's desk for her signature, and it could be the next couple of days. Obviously, they'll probably do some ceremony, because they think that this piece of legislation is going to actually save lives. It's all a farce. It will never save a life. What it does is it criminally penalizes your way of life. Okay. And we're not going to sugarcoat that. We're going to call it for what it is. It's an infringement, and it is not going to save lives. It is going to ensnare responsible, law-abiding citizens that either have a forced reset trigger that they use on the range, or it's going to where they walk into a building that they didn't see a sign, and now there's criminal punishment for that. Okay. It's never been about saving lives. It's about making you pay. And so I'm going to be very frank about that. And so what it looks like, there's a couple wins that we got on this bill. Okay, so throughout this process, this bill has been amended. Now we're on, over 22 different amendments. Okay, it was an omnibus bill, had 4 bills. It was, ban on rapid fire devices. There was a 72-hour hold. There was the ban on adults having rifles 18 to 21, and then there was also, the sensitive places, and so there was everything into this bill. Okay, so we were able to strip it down to where it was just the two. So it was the rapid fire devices, and there was the preemption part of it. And then right before a work session, they added the measure 114 component to that. And so now we have part of measure 114 that's going to be implemented. Okay, so if we're looking at time frame, so time frame is very important here. Okay, the original bill, the way it stood, they call it the base bill. There was an emergency clause. There was all of these things. There was grounds adjacent to. That was another one that was very, very dangerous for us. And so through this process, we were able to whittle it down. Okay, obviously, I'm not agreeing to any kind of compromise here, but I have to look at, if I'm going to get stuck with something, I have to understand what I'm being stuck with. Okay, and so I think the most dangerous thing for us as gun owners was obviously the grounds adjacent to. That was a really bad part of that bill. So that means I could be on property. I don't know who owns the property. If it's grounds adjacent to, I could be a criminal. Okay, so that's what's something to understand, that we were, where we're going, and what to think about is that was really bad for the bill. Okay, they also had the emergency clause in this. So this means the moment that this bill is signed by the governor, it would go into effect because it's some public health or public safety issue. Okay. Luckily for us, we were able to get that cut out. So we lost the grounds adjacent to, or actually we won the grounds adjacent to. I'm gonna rephrase it. And then we also won the grounds adjacent to battle. Okay, we're still in these little skirmishes. The battle is 243 as a whole. Unfortunately, today we lost the battle, and the battle was on the floor of the Senate. Okay, we had the the Senate Republicans could have done us a solid. They could have walked off the floor, and they could deny the quorum on this bill only. Right, that could have been a really good thing for all of us. And I posted the vote count the other day, and I'm not gonna sit here and demonize them for not having the courage to do the work on our behalf. Okay, that's not what this video is about. Okay, this video is about learning about what we could do better and where we want to go into the future. We're not going to focus on the past. The past is that vote. We lost the vote. This thing is going to go into effect 91 days after she signs this into law. And so then we're stuck with it. Okay. So what we're going to focus on is the next election. We're going to focus on the things that we can control. The things that we can control today is making sure we're registered to vote, making sure that we are ready. We're studying our candidates. We are, when it's time to vote, we're actually showing up and casting our vote. These are things that we all need to kind of look ourselves in the mirror. I had a good conversation with Tony Allo today, and it was very frank and it was a good conversation. But we talked about the man in the mirror, and I was like, "Damn, we should make shirts about that." And when we're talking about the man in the mirror, we have to look at how our actions as Oregon gun owners has put us towards this path where we're at today. Okay, and a prime example would be 2022. When 160,000 of us stayed home because we didn't get the perfect governor, the governor that we wanted, right? So we stayed home, and that's what gave us Measure 114. And so this is obviously, it's time for us to reflect. It's also a time for us to be angry. It's also a time for us to channel this anger into action. And that's kind of where I want to go. And I'm hoping people want to join me on this journey to stop this stuff. But because, really, if we get involved, we can really make a difference. And it makes a difference by all of us just showing up and clocking in. And so I want to turn this anger into action. Obviously, I'm mad. I put a lot of time and effort and energy into this, and there's a lot of people just like me, and there's a lot of people that supported me on this journey, and I'm angry, right? Um, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this for good. I'm going to use this experience that I learned up there to get better at what I'm doing, so we can all be better, right? So I want to kind of lead the way and show people that this can be done, and this is how we're going to do it, and this is what the result we can expect if we do the work. Okay, and so that's what I'm advocating for here today. Is obviously this is a setback. This is not the end of the world for us. I mean, one thing that we have to worry about and think about here is we have federal court cases that are going on currently, right? So we have a potential challenge for the rapid fire devices, the bump stock, all the way at the Supreme Court level, and so I think that is a good fight for us because that's something that we don't have to use our resources. Okay, our resources are not going to be tied up in court here, arguing over something that's going to be decided in the Supreme Court. So that's like big picture thing. This is the thing I want to think about. Okay, and so and I'm seeing some comments here. I'm going to make sure that let me get through my thoughts and kind of what I'm talking about, and I'll come back and we'll talk about these comments. I just don't want to lose my train of thought. And so stand by. You've got some really great questions, and we'll address them. So give me a second. And so that's kind of the thing to think about is I want to have achievable goals, right? So what's my 30, 60, 90, like 6 months, next midterm, all of these things, right? These are all things that if we set, checkpoints, milestones, and use technology to our advantage, we can be very, very effective. Okay. And we can get better at what we're doing. Once we're officially something, like right now, I called it today in my post, I called us a ragtag grassroots army, and that's what we are. And if I look back at in history, right? So the history We look at Lexington and Concord. Okay, it was 3% of the population that took up arms against the British and gave us this gift of liberty that we have currently today. All right, and it's our job to hold that line, right, for them, right, our ancestors and the people that came before us, and so that's where I want to channel that spirit, and obviously everything that we've done the past couple of years up there in the session has all been us coming together as a collective and pushing back on this stuff, and it's made a difference. It really has. The fact of the matter is, we have the other side that put out an email last night, which I put in the Facebook group, where they sent out 10,000 emails to their representatives, and they lost. Okay, 10,000 emails, right? And what did we do? What did the ragtag group of grassroots activists and advocates do? We submitted testimony in opposition. Okay, Senate Bill 243, we had close to 2,300 in opposition. Okay, we had in 3076 there was over like 2,100 in opposition, right? And this is all part of the record. So these every part of that testimony that we submitted is part and is attached to this indefinitely, right? As long as this is part of the Oregon OLA system, and so this is a truly, like, we're looking apples to oranges comparison, right? So they're focused on the sparkly. I paid the politicians to do this thing. We're over here doing the infrastructural work that's going to make a difference going into the future. Okay, we're getting better at the process. We are learning how to navigate it better. We are doing all these things, and it's making a difference. But I've had multiple conversations up there. Okay, so we just have to just believe that we're on the right path, and we just got to keep working and moving forward, right, and get better. And so that's the goal here today. And so, as angry as I am, I'm going to turn this anger into action, right? I'm going to get better at my job. And I know there's going to be other people that are going to get involved too, because now, like, we got to win, right? We, out of like 12 to 15 bills, we got stuck with 243. 243 could be settled in court. So we saved all of our FFLs in House Bill 3076. So our way of life is still protected because we still have the ability to go buy a firearm in the state of Oregon because of the work that we did together as a group. And so that's kind of the thing that I want to focus on, and I'm going to start looking at questions. It was a hard day. I hated to see us lose. I knew it was going to happen, just by the way certain people turn their back on me and us. So I'm not going to blast them. I'm gonna work to recall or replace. That's what I'm going to do. So yeah, Jessica, it was nice meeting you. So this one's a great question. I'm going to start talking about questions. So absolutely. So this is what we've been calling and asking for the Trump administration to get involved. I feel, Alicia Overstreet has some really good ideas about filing complaints. This is something that we really should be doing when it comes to civil rights. This is a civil rights violation, okay? Or any violation of our 2A rights, our First Amendment right, that's a civil liberty issue. That's why when I'm speaking to people up there, I don't talk 2A. I talk civil liberties, right? Civil liberties is more broad based. It's more. I'm starting to use their terminology against them. Basically, like, we're talking civil rights, they think that I'm talking about free speech. I'm actually talking about my ability to protect myself against a tyrannical government, and they are none the wiser. So that is something I do. I really believe that Trump can help us here. It's not going to help us in the short term, and so that's where we have to be focused on what's going on, and that's kind of where we're at. So that's a good question, though. We got to just keep blowing up their phones and getting them involved, and this is. I feel this, and I feel that we were successful, and I'm not going. Obviously, it sucks to lose, but we could have lost a lot worse, And so that's where I'm not going to get down in the dumps. I'm going to stay focused. I'm going to keep working, and I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, and you guys do the same. And at the end of the day, we're going to be victorious because that's the one thing that we have on our side is we're righteous, right? We have our 2A rights. We don't know how long it could take, but there's so many other decisions that are coming out of other parts of the country that nullify all of this stuff. Okay, so we are winning in court nationally at a national level. We just have to be patient here in Oregon and hold the line and get better so we can push back on this. Okay, on the next stuff that's going to be coming. There's more bills that are going to be coming. Believe it or not, they're gonna. So absolutely, this is a really great comment right there. They are not going to stop. Jason Krupp, when he started crying the other day on the House floor when it comes to 243, they are not going to stop. They are going to come back. They're going to come back in short session. Um, and that's why it's important in the off season right now when the legislature is closed. We have to work together and we have to organize and we have to prepare because they're going to come back. It's a given. Um, I would make a pretty good prediction that within 5 years they're going to call out for a full out either. I think the semi-automatic rifle ban is going to be next in the next session, but I would see as them trying to ban every gun sale in the state of Oregon. They do not want guns in the state. They've said that in testimony this year. They've said the quiet part out loud, and so we have to make sure that we're part of this and stop it. So they will not stop. So that's a very 100%. Um, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. I think we've gotten so far behind in Oregon because we haven't been effective, and so that's where we have to know that they're we have to get better. We have to vote. We have to get better candidates. There's like all these there's so much that goes into it. But I disagree. I feel that if we can work together and we can make changes in the way we engage civically, I think that we can definitely stop this stuff. I really do. So I get your point, but I feel that I'm not going to give up, right? And I know many of you aren't either. This one right here, this is okay. This is one of our biggest challenges, Steve, and I respect your opinion here. And there's so many people that are disenfranchised, but I will say this: are they really disenfranchised if they did not show up to vote? Okay, they can't. I know that's the way they feel, but how do they know if they don't try? I guess that's the biggest thing I want to press upon the audience and the people that are watching, the people that are rallied and paying attention is like they didn't expect us to do this, to be honest with you. They thought they were going to get all of these bills. The bills that they thought they were going to get, they thought they were going to get 947. They thought they were going to get 1015. They thought they were going to get 3076. They thought they were going to get 243 as it was originally proposed. And we stopped all of it because we were involved and we got and we had our voices be heard with our senators and our representatives, right? And we worked the process the way it's designed to work. So, that's where we can't say that our votes are not going to count because I mean, obviously the theft is a real problem. Okay, the fraud is a real problem, and the only way we can defeat that, and Trump made a good. It's too big to rip, right? So if all of us do our job, it doesn't cost us anything but a stamp to mail, or it's free if we just drop it off at the ballot box or we go in person. It doesn't cost us anything, so we're not out anything. The only thing we're out is if we don't show up, So that's where I know people feel disenfranchised, but you're not disenfranchised if you do the work. So that's where I'm getting to. This is a really good question. So yes, in 91 days, after this one goes into effect, 91 days, it's going to be a felony for us to be in possession, transfer, sell a forced reset trigger. Okay. One thing to think about is up to 10 years in prison. Okay. It's on the same lines with second degree sexual assault. Okay. Rape 2 is the same penalty for having something that I paid 400 and some dollars for that I've had today that is not harming anybody. Okay, I'm not saying I have one of these, but I support the right to own and possess them because it is an infringement to take them away. So Yes, 91 days, they are going to be illegal. There is going to be serious criminal penalties if you're caught in possession of those. So, just an FYI. So, this this right here, Randy, thank you, thank you, thank you. This right here, this testimony right here better reflects the will of the people. And this is a great comment. I wish we should focus on this, right? Is they had the 10,000, scripted emails that they hit one button and it sent an email to their elected official because they have it all automated. They have the budget. The testimony that really mattered was the ones of us that submitted written testimony that came from our heart after we worked a 12-hour shift or raised kids or did all of these things. That's what really reflects on Oregon, and it's broader than those red shirts ever will be. And so that is a really great. That's a really great comment. Thank you for that, Randy. We have to. Yes, this is another great comment. The NRA has been part of this process. Okay, so I've been dealing with NRA, ILA. They've been very helpful. They've done some negotiations on our behalf. They probably helped negotiate some of this stuff away. And so, hats off to them. They were there. It was the NRA, ILA. So it's the legislative part of the NRA. So not the actual like the training part. It's the people that focus on just the legislation portion of gun registration or gun laws. So they did really help. So I'm thankful for that. So how can we take this to court? This is another great question. Okay, so I think the best thing that we can do right now is focus on. We know this is going to go into effect. We have 91 days. I think the one thing. Absolutely. I'll get to you next, Damien. Thank you for tuning in. Um, we can take this to court. I think one of our best bets, and Tony, I'm going to do a stream, I think, with Tony tomorrow or the next day where we kind of will bounce all of these ideas off each other and we can kind of like, this is the best case scenario. This is what it looks like. And he can speak better to the court process. We can take this to court. The problem is it costs a lot of money and somebody most likely would have to be harmed. So somebody would have to be arrested and I'm not looking for a felony, right? And so that's where we got to be smart and just be patient, but we got to use that energy that we're mad about, and we got to turn it. We got to win. Um, that's all we got to do. So, I would, yeah. So Damien, I'll put some stuff in there. I'll reach out to Alicia and she'll kind of help. We'll talk about the civil rights part and how we can file with the DOJ. I think it's with the DOJ, and we can request. They're denying our civil liberties, and that's where we're going to go. And so, you know, that's awesome. We'll get it going. Right there, this right here, right? I can't tell you how many messages I've gotten like this over the past year from people that have never ever emailed. They didn't know how to run OLIS. They didn't know how to contact their representatives. They felt like they were voiceless. And the fact that you were able to take these videos and turn them into something that's going to make you a better advocate going forward, that's the greatest honor I can ever receive, because it's not about the money for me. It's about making sure that, because I know I can't do all the work myself. I know the people that were up there today, we can't do the work ourselves. The best way we can get um, anything done that we want to get done is by making sure that you're part of this process. And you guys are force multipliers. And the goal, like with this new organization, is the website is going to be automated. We get calls we get alerts. They go to the website. They get broadcast to everybody. Everybody can click and paste and do what they need to do to be part of this process. We're going to automate everything. We're gonna move at light speed, okay? And we know how the system works, and we're going to be ahead of all of this stuff, and that's where I feel that we need to just get involved and keep going and use this as a learning experience as you've have learned. I mean, that's awesome. I'm so glad you're able to be part of this. So, we that's huge. And absolutely. And Phyllis, yeah, that's the I'm working in like we're working. Obviously, the funding's the issue, and I know money's tight for a lot of people, and money's tight for me too. But I feel that it is something that if we could come together and figure out a way that we could, start the process and develop the organization and go from there, then it's gonna start kind of steamrolling. I feel there's a lot of people that need to feel that their money goes directly to support the fight here in Oregon. And so the goal with an organization would be to directly impact their representatives and senators up in that building and giving a face and representing in a way and being able to keep everybody engaged and to stop this stuff. I mean, that's what it's going to come down. It's going to come to, and we can do this in other, and that's what I was talking with leaderships today is the blueprint that we developed on guns. We can plug and play and do it other parts of Oregon politics, and this is how we can win. And I know we can win because I know how we're going to they're gonna try to beat us, right? So if I'm ahead of it, it's easier for me to come from a defensive sense situation than always having to. I'm gonna go on the, and also I want to go on the offensive. I want them to get off script. I want them like they thought 3076 was a slam dunk. I mean, you can tell yesterday that alert that I put out, they thought it was going to be passed, and so they didn't even think to update their little from their app. So they were as shocked as we were that 3076 was not going to go any further, and so that's kind of where we're at. Um, that's kind of we just got to keep going. Um, no, absolutely, Steve. Absolutely, Steve. The way I look at this is not a fight that'll be over tomorrow. This is a generational fight. This is a 5 to 10 year fight. This is a 20-year fight. And this is something that we are behind the eight ball because a lot of great folks have left the state. And so they've left us, and which I don't blame them. I'm envious of them, to be honest with you, because every day it doesn't get any better here in the state of Oregon. I see all of my friends from all over the country flourishing. When I travel to free states like Texas, I was in there last month. It's amazing to be in a free state, but I know that if we can get involved and work it the right way, the way we need to work it, we can have a free state again too. Because there's a lot of people that are waking up. There's a lot of people in the middle that are feeling disenfranchised because of how extreme the other side is, and so that's where we pick up the middle. And so that's where I would just say to you, Steve, is don't give up, right? And be part of this fight, be part of this journey, see what you can do to get involved, right? So if you have expertise, if you want to figure out how you can help, this is the way to do it. It's truly grassroots. Um, yeah, there is a list, and I have published it, and I'm still working on what my move is with them. And so I had some very hard conversations this morning before the hearing, and I had some unreturned text messages which were very very hurtful, right? Because I put it all on the line for you guys. I gave you guys a voice and did a lot of work on their behalf, and then to have my text messages go unread when I needed them most, that was like it was like a wake up. Okay, we're playing politics here. Okay, so now I get it. Now I know that was my wake up call. And so now I got to figure out what it looks like. I've already published the list. Everything's public record. You can go on OLIS. You can see the votes firsthand. Obviously, every one of them they voted no today, which I'm thankful for. But there's things that could have been done to prevent that. So that's I'm going to keep it positive because I'm not going to get down in the dumps today. I understand the anger. it's noted, and it's really, really something that we have to. Um, Let me get on this one. So yes, I would. Yes, there was a deal made. There was a deal made. It's not really my place to speak on the actual details of that, because I haven't been privy to it firsthand. So I'm not going to spread rumors. I'm going to be factual with the information that I put out because I know my words have weight, and so obviously other people, there was a deal that was reached, and so that's what's kept the Senate Republicans in on the floor today. So it was that deal, and so it is what it is, and so yeah, Virgil Osborne has done tremendous work on our behalf. He is one that he is a man of the people, and he is one that can be trusted. He's the one that is doing the work on the behalf of his constituents. So what he says is factual information, and so I would recommend you go to his page on Facebook and follow along there. He's got a podcast, a really good podcast. Check that out. I was on it a couple of weeks ago, and just something to think about. So yeah, that's where we're at. So yeah, Ken, I think going forward, what we need to do is make sure we can identify good candidates that can run, and we need to get them elected, and we need to make sure we show up and vote. Right, we have to take it seriously because obviously the voter rolls are getting smaller and smaller for good folks because there's a lot of good folks that are leaving the state. And so that's where we have to do better and be a part of it. So that's kind of where I'm at. I won't take too much more of your time. Just Senate Bill 243. It passed. Unfortunately, we did the best we could, and we had 91 days. 91 days until it's going to go into effect. One thing to think about is the Measure 114 component. There's a couple questions that we need to answer on that. Okay, so the way the Measure 114, let me get that going. So the way the component for Measure 114 is going to work is obviously they are still waiting to hear what's going to happen from the Oregon State Supreme Court. Okay, so literally we have a couple of weeks to submit our argument to the Oregon State Supreme Court. The argument's going to be on, I believe, November 6th. Obviously, our attorney would know more. I'm just going to give you kind of the brief layman's version of this. And so that's when they're going to be arguing on Measure 114. Okay, so the Measure 114 component of this is not going to go into effect unless we lose the ruling. The ruling doesn't go in our favor at the Oregon State Supreme Court. Okay, so that's the one thing that's going to hold this all up because this thing is still an injunction, and so we have time there. Let's say the Measure 114 component was scheduled to go into effect on March 15th of 2026. That's after the short session ends of 2026, and we'll talk about you know what that looks like when we get to that point. Obviously, the one thing that's holding it up is the Oregon State Supreme Court. So we have time there. And one thing that I'm getting questions on, and he answered for me, which I'll send it off to you guys, is they're trying to. So currently, right now, Measure 114 is the law. Okay, it's the law of the land. It was passed. The problem is it's not enforceable because of the injunctions, the permanent injunction out of Harney County. Okay, the Oregon State Appellate Court, they issued a ruling. Okay, the ruling is an opinion. Okay, the opinion cannot overrule the actual injunction that's out of Harney County. Okay, so that's why we're in this holding pattern right now. So the Senate Democrats, or the House Democrats, they love to say this is the law of the land, yada yada yada, and they always talk about this ruling, but the ruling is just an opinion. Okay, it's not something. They do not have the weight to overrule the actual injunction. The higher court has to do that. Okay, so that being said, is nothing is going to change until we get official word from the Oregon State Supreme Court. It could be after March 15th of 2026. Okay, if we're still tied up in that injunction because of the Oregon State Supreme Court is taking so long to deliberate, then this would not go into effect until we hear what the Oregon State Supreme Court is going to rule. Okay, so that's the one thing that's kind of holding everything up. Okay, so that's probably the easiest, most non-lawyer speak that I can give you because I'm not an attorney. I just play one on YouTube and Facebook. So yes, right here, absolutely. I'm going to show you the way, and it's because of just the system that we've created on the Facebook group that is going to help put this in a nice, pretty package once we have an actual organization that's stood up that everybody can be a part of. And yes, this is another. It's maybe so. This is we have a blueprint. We have to make the blueprint official. Once we have the official blueprint, then we'll be able to get people involved and put a hurting on them. We're going to stop this stuff, okay? And yes, this would be another thing that we can do. Okay, this is something Alicia brought up to me when I was doing on my way over here to the hotel. Is now we can sign up for we can put this on the referendum. Okay, so it's pretty easy for us to do. So we can gather enough signatures to actually repeal this, right, and put it in front of the voters. Okay, so this literally, as long as there's no emergency clause, okay, we can actually put it and use the referendum process to repeal this stuff. This is another. So a couple things that we can do. We can recall people. Okay, if they're a representative, probably not a good idea because they run for office every 2 years. That would take up a lot of time, so we'd be better off going after senators, and they go, I believe, every 4 years. Okay, so if they're up for reelection or they can't run for reelection because of the Measure 113, we should be replacing them. Okay, there was senators today that cannot run for reelection because of Measure 113, so we should be putting people up that are going to be and take their place. Okay, that's what we should be doing. We can also be doing recalls. Okay, the recalls are, I would probably go after a senator. We have probably 12 to 15 that we've identified in purple districts that we could go after with recalls. That could work. That's part of turning this anger into action. This is all things that we can do, and so that's where I want you guys to know that we're still in this. We're not going to give up, and we're just going to keep moving forward. That's the biggest thing. So I'm gonna get off here. I've got some other stuff to do, and then just gonna do it all again tomorrow. Obviously tomorrow's Saturday, so the legislature's probably done. So my work's done. I'm glad to have some normalcy again and start planning my next moves. And I hope to have you guys part of it. So together we can win. I really believe that. So, and we learned a lot this year. So, I mean, hats off to everybody that got involved, everybody that submitted testimony for the first time, everybody that registered to testify, everybody that showed up. Hats off to you guys, okay? Because that's how we make this change. We don't let the other side speak for us. We get involved, and that's what you guys did. So, yeah, Ken. Um, thank you for being a part of it. Thank you for believing in me. Please be a part of it. That's I'm tired. My heart's full though. We did the work. I had some great folks show up today, and we had our final stand, and we left it all there. So now we're gonna turn it into something. So yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys. So I wanted to win. I really did. So, but what I did learn is I learned a lot about the process, and I'm gonna make it better. So next time we're not going to be in this position. So thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you guys' support. Subscribe on our YouTube channel. I'm going to start doing more like fundamental stuff. Like, this is how we use technology to our advantage. Like totally grassroots activism advocates work. I'm gonna start doing it more on my YouTube channel. So if you guys are on YouTube, look out for that. I'll try to schedule events. to give you guys plenty of time. And once we, we're gonna be, deep dive into all this stuff that I've been doing for the past couple of years that have been effective and have been working and have put us in the position we're in today, where we could, if we all get involved, we can stop this stuff. I believe it. So that's where I'm at. You guys have a good night, and I'm gonna leave you with that. So turn this action into anger, or turn this anger into action. Excuse me. So have a good night. Thank you.